طيروا طيارين ودون طيار مروا علينا من جميع الطيايين كفار بالطاغوت كفار كفار يا امريكا بكل التكافير. ما ترهبون يا الطواغيت الاشرار بالطائرة والبارجة والجنازير، ما ترهبون في يد الله الأعمار، أعمارنا ما هي بيد الخنازير.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفر ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا، من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum to everybody listening. This is my first topic of the Tawheed series, the first pillar. Inshallah, we're going to go through Kufr bit Taghut. I've been through already the importance of Tawheed to make you realize the weight behind this kalima Tawheed and the background behind this kalima Tawheed that every Anbiya was sent down for. Just to give you a little understanding of Tawheed in Sahih Muslim, whoever dies comprehending the Shahada will enter Jannah. So this is another virtue of Tawheed, that whoever understands this kalima, La ilaha illallah, will enter Jannah, and whoever understands it obviously will automatically implement it in their actions. Zayd ibn Thabit used to say, as a Sahaba, that Iman is Tawheed. And the Sahaba used to say that we used to study our Iman before the Quran, study our Tawheed before the Quran. So it's clear cut that we understand that the Tawheed is more important to us than the Quran. The Tawheed comes first. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Muhammad verse 19, فَاعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Know La ilaha illallah. So we have to know what this Tawheed is. We need to understand it. We can't just say we are Muslims and sit at home without the understanding, without the meaning, without realizing our responsibilities with this kalima Tawheed, La ilaha illallah. Tawheed is the first and last obligation. It is the duty of all the Anbiya, and it is our salvation. The definition of Tawheed, elaborated by the ulama of Haqq, is Tawheed al-Ifrad al-Ubudiyya lillah, the exclusive worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibn Abbas, Zayd ibn Thabit, Imam Ali radiallahu anhum, all of them used to say that there is no one truly worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this Tawheed, this kalima, has three aspects to it. What happens generally, people believe that ilah means just God, but that's incorrect. Rather, ilah is something that is muta'a, obeyed, something that is matbu', followed, and something that is ma'bud, worshipped. So it's not just God, it's got a more deeper meaning. It's anything worshipped, obeyed, followed. That's what ilah is God. It's something that you take to worship, obey, or follow. So when we do these three aspects, we need to direct it towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise, if we direct it towards anything else, it will class as shirk, and that will negate your kalima. So this kalima in Surah Baqarah verse 256, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whoever disbelieves in Taghut first, then believes in Allah, has grasped the trustworthy handhold of Islam, which is the kalima Tawheed. So we need to disbelieve in this word called Taghut. So the kalima in essence is broken up into two aspects. First one, the first pillar, which is Kufr bit Taghut, to disbelieve in Taghut, and the second pillar, which is Iman billah, to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exclusively. So we need to disbelieve before we believe. So now this disbelief, we need to realize what is Taghut. One principle that the ulama use is takhalli qabla tahalli. Give up before you take up. What do we have to give up? We have to give up the shirk, the nifaq, the kufr, and then we take up the iman, the Quran, and the sunnah, etc. So we need to know, okay, we need to reject Taghut, but what is Taghut is the next question. Linguistically, Taghut comes from the word tagha, to transgress all limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in the Sharia definition, according to Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, Taghut is anything worshipped, obeyed, or followed other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you obey or worship anybody or anything, object or a human being or a picture, and you start worshipping that, that it becomes Taghut. Your action is Taghut, and obviously that individual, if he accepts, as Sheikh Umar Bakri Muhammad says, and he adds on to this definition, and they have to accept or consent to be worshipped. Now, if that person or individual or being accepts to be worshipped, then that individual is Taghut, and obviously that needs to be rejected. Also, Umar bin Khattab in Tafsir ibn Kathir says that Taghut is Shaitan. So we know that in essence Taghut is Shaitan, something that we have to stay away from. But how do we recognize this Taghut? And Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab in his Kitab al-Tawheed has made it easy for us, has simplified it for us, that he has given us 5 heads of Taghut. The first head of Taghut, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab says in Kitab al-Tawheed, is Shaitan. The reason why he says this is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Yasin verse 60, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alam ahad ilaykum ya bani Adama, alla ta'budu shaitan, innahu lakum aduwwun mubin. Did I not command you, O children of Adam, that you should not worship Shaitan? Verily he is a plain enemy to you. So ultimately Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran is telling us that Shaitan is an enemy to us, and that he is number one enemy and number 1 head of Taghut. He has promised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he has told Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he is going to come in front of the insan, from the front, from the back, from the left, from the right, to what? Deviate that individual away from the path of Tawheed, from the path of Sirat al-Mustaqim, and he's going to deviate him away to the path of Shaitan, to the path of Jahannam. So this is our number 1 Taghut, that we need to reject Shaitan, and we need to realize that Shaitan is our enemy. It'd be very silly if somebody says that Shaitan is not our enemy. Actually, one discussion I had with one individual said to me that he was told that Shaitan, you cannot call him kafir, you cannot call him disbeliever, because he believes in Allah. Yes, he's correct in essence, in one sense, that he believes in Allah, he knows Allah, but just believing in Allah is not enough. He disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to bow down, it's in Surah Baqarah, I think is where he says, Bismillah, إِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ أَبَى وَاسْتَكْبَرَ وَكَانَ مِنَ الْكَافِرِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Iblis to bow down to Adam, and he didn't bow down. Because he had pride in him, takabbar, he had pride in him, and he became amongst those who were disbelievers, kafirin, kana min al-kafirin, he was kafir. So to say that he is not kafir is denying the ayat of Quran, which makes you in essence kafir as well. So you need to realize that this ayat of Quran means that Shaitan is kafir because he disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commands. So number 1 head of Taghut is Shaitan. Number 2 is the rulers, the tyrant rulers. The ayat that Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab gives for this is in Surah Al-Maidah verse 44, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. And whoever does not rule by what Allah has revealed, they are the kafirun, the disbelievers. And we can see it today, wherever you look, the rulers today, they are implementing non-Islam, no Sharia whatsoever. That's why we are calling for Sharia in UK, in America, fi kulli makan, in every area. But the rulers today, the so-called Muslims, they are implemented their own desires, like Genghis Khan. They've implemented a bit of Jewish rules, a bit of Christianity rules, a bit of Islamic rules, and a bit of their own whims and desires, and they mixed it up and they attributed it to God, saying that it is Sharia. And in fact, that is something, an insult on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that person, that individual who does this, becomes a murtad, an apostate, if he was Muslim initially. So the rulers, and that's the ayat that Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab gives. So we can imagine that, you can understand this, because when the ruler, he implements something, a rule and regulation, it gets binding upon all of the people, because he is a leader of all the people. Whatever he says, the people have to follow. He's got the authority, he's got the power. So when he says that riba is halal, riba is allowed, by allowing the banks to exist in Saudi Arabia or wherever it be, then he has automatically made it halal for all the individuals to utilize that bank, utilizing riba interest, when it's a direct contradiction to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ayat, where Allah says riba is haram, and whoever does riba take war from Allah and His Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And the rulers are doing that. They implement not just riba, they implement many kufr laws. They actually join themselves in the United Nations, which is a group, a body that legislates laws when they have no right to legislate, because only the law and order is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah says, the legislation is only for Allah in the Quran. So they take laws and they implement laws other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So their rulers are the second head of Taghut. The third head of Taghut are the judges. And it's the same ayat for the judges as well. And also another ayat in Surah An-Nisa verse 60, it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِينَ يَدْعُمُونَ أَنَّهُمْ آمَنُوا بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ يُرِيدُونَ أَنْ يَتَحَاكَمُوا إِلَى الطَّاغُوتِ وَقَدْ أُمِرُوا أَنْ يَكْفُرُوا بِهِ وَيُرِيدُ الشَّيْطَانُ أَنْ يُضِلَّهُمْ ضَلَالًا بَعِيدًا.
جلجلت عاليا بالوقت طيحة الأباء وانبرت تسمع البغي. جلجلت عاليا بالوقت طيحة الأباء وانبرت.
Those hypocrites who claim that they believe in that which has been sent down to you and that which has been sent down before you, and they wish to go for judgment in their disputes to the Taghut, the false judges, whilst they have been ordered to reject them, but Shaitan wants to lead them far astray. And this is so true. Nowadays, if you want a fatwa, you just go on the internet and you search for a fatwa, and you'll find a scholar giving you a fatwa against what the Quran and Sunnah preaches, against what the Quran and the Sahih Hadith tells us. Like in Saudi Arabia, when they allowed the American forces to come into Saudi Arabia to kill our Muslim brothers and sisters in Iraq, and 1 million babies were starved to death in Iraq because of that one fatwa, because one individual, a sheikh, a judge, judged by giving a fatwa against the Quran and Sunnah. And many of the judges do this. When they give a judgment, that's going to be binding on the people, that's going to be binding on the individual, that's going to be binding on the society. So they need to judge according to Quran and Sunnah. So when they judge, it affects the masses, it affects the public. When an individual judges at home, it only affects him at home. But when the judge issues a fatwa, or when a sheikh issues a fatwa, it affects the masses, the society. Hence is the third head of Taghut. If they do any kind of legislation other than to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they go to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for their judgment, then this is a form of Taghut, and this needs to be rejected. Number 4, anyone who claims to see the unseen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alimul ghaybi fala yudhiru ala ghaybihi ahada. He alone is the all-knower of the unseen, and he reveals to none his unseen. So anybody now to say that I can see the ghayb, I can see the unseen, then they have lied against this ayat, and they've lied against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these people, you can see many of them today in Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, where they come out and they say, give me your hand, let me see your hand and I will tell you the future. Let me see your hand and I will tell you how much money you will get in your life, if you're going to have a good life or a bad life. This is the ghaib, this is the unseen, and they have lied against this. And this is shirk, this is shirk akbar, because whoever does this, and even if it comes true, because some people, these beasts, they use help from the jinn, and that's a form of black magic, and that can make you kafir as well. So this shirk akbar that they do, on Yawm al-Qiyamah, all their deeds will be nullified, and they will have no answer for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when Allah has clearly told us that the ghaib is only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Bear in mind, some of the ghaib, for example, hellfire, Jannah, Jahannam, all these things, the malaika, about the past, Allah has informed Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam to tell his companions, hence we got that information via Sahih Hadith. So these ghaib that we cannot see, because we cannot see heaven, we cannot see hell, we don't know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attributes and names, because we haven't seen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attributes and names, sorry, not that we don't know it, sorry, we just haven't seen it. So we haven't seen Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but yet we know this ghaib because Allah's informed Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who has informed us. So we know these unseen, but the other unseen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not told us about, for example, the baby in the womb of the mother, about his or her character, etc., or about the weather, whether it's going to rain or not, or about your future, or whether you're going to die, when you're going to die, etc. All these kind of things, the people who claim to say they know that, they are lying against Allah, and these people are Taghut, and they need to be rejected. We need to reject them. I'm going to come to how we reject these Taghuts. But first we need to recognize these actions, that these people, whoever do these actions, they are Taghut. As soon as we realize that this person is doing this, or this judge is going to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or this ruler is implementing non-Islamic law, or this is clear-cut shaitan, we need to reject him. We need to realize that this is Taghut, then we need to reject him after this. So the fourth one is anyone who claims to see the unseen.